We want to take this external begin our meeting. Stands for the Council Promotion. Whakatakatāu ki tū, whakatakatāu ki te tonga, he mā kine kine ki utara, he mā tātara ki tai, he aki ana tātukura, he tio, he huka, he ohu, TIA Māori order. Let us affirm today that we as councillors will work together to serve the citizens of Selwyn District, to always use our gifts of understanding, courage, common sense, wisdom and integrity in all our discussions, dealings and decisions so that we may solve problems effectively. We always recognise each other's values and opinions, be fair-minded and ready to listen to each other's point of view. In our dealing with each other, let us always be open to the truth of others and ready to seek agreement. Don't take offence and always prepared to forgive. But we always work to enhance the well-being of the Selwyn District and its communities. We will. I've got a couple of apologies for today's meeting, and Nicole and Sophie, are those going to move from second to receive that? Thanks, Malcolm and Shane. For those in favour, say aye. Anyone against? Clear it carries. Introduction of any ordinary business not on the agenda. Correct. Conflicts of interest, people would like to raise their own on the conflict register. None. Move to on the floor. And it's built here today. Come on to the front of the room and you can take a seat in one of those two seats. There's a microphone that's in front of you on the right hand side button. Turn the microphone on, you press it once and it turns on, and press it again and it'll turn it off. We have 10 minutes for the public forum and we're keen to hear what you've got to say to us today. The space is for us to listen, not debate your issue. So keen to hear from you and maybe one or two questions of clarification once we've finished. So I'll hand the floor over. Thank you.
That sounds interesting. I'm Peter Schnell. The farm of the family has been there for over 125 years. Over 100 years ago, the wisdom of my grandfather or the Rhodes boards decided to move the reserve on the property. I have no idea why. I never met my great-grandfather. And I would imagine they did a gentleman's agreement handshake that many years ago to move the titles. That's never happened. We've tried with my father, we've promised by several people. Brian Perrin was one of them who promised him that stuff was being done. Kevin Harmer, I took his hand. He told me the paperwork's being done. My father carried down here, I can't remember if it was Michael McKeown or Calvin Code when I took over the property, that the agreements would be honoured and would have a letter of content sent. That never happened. So we've been promised lots of things for many years. The other one, I tried to stop the pit from being full so I could keep it as a water reserve on their property. That was taken away from me because I was told the paperwork was being done to move the titles and it was council land. And for the last 10 years, I've tried to put it in front of the room and I haven't got anywhere. So I've decided to bring it to your councillors here in the room so you guys understand what's going on. It's taken 10 months to actually get a letter from your lawyer to actually acknowledge that it's happened. I got a lawyer letter about 10 months ago saying that they don't wish to discuss the matter at the moment and it's nothing to do with it. So now they've actually come back. Lydia says she sent the letter around to everyone stating that they're looking at starting to take some responsibility of what's happened. But basically, the only way you can resolve the matter is either we've got to carry on lawyers talking to lawyers, what's going to cost us megabucks, or we're going to sit around the round table with the lawyers and sort it out. But basically, I'm here to ask you guys what you want to happen. Do you want me to keep using lawyers back and forwards, or sit around the round table and sort it out? That's basically what I've come here for, because I don't seem to be getting anywhere where I'm dealing with the way I'm dealing with it at the moment.
Thank you. Are there any questions that people have? No, you've asked us about our expectation. And I think your expectation would be that you'd respond to the lease or an offer that's being put to you, and then we would know where you sit with that. It's the same letter that was given to you about 5 years ago, and there's updated date, but I think that the terms of what has been discussed have remained pretty much unchanged over that time. So we didn't receive a response those many years ago, and so if you were to respond to that letter now,
covers the lawyer's bill, won't even cover to clean up the cost of the mess what's left on top of the pit. And the reason that the $13,000 is sitting there, the pit was valued several years ago. The paperwork's probably sitting somewhere. There was actually the piece of reserve was valued at about a certain value. The pit was valued at a different value, and there was actually $13,500 difference in valuation. So the council have decided the difference between the two valuations of the land will be $13,000. So they're going to pay me a compensation of $13,000. The loan, the council collected royalties from all the material extracted out of the pit and pocketed, was not paid on to any of the owners of the land.
So the reserve land, what have you been doing with that in the interim?
I've been farming it. At this stage, we have farmed the reserve land while the council have managed the reserve.
No, you've paid lease on that land for the last 100 years as well?
No,
It's outstanding.
no, for the reserve, my father paid a lease on that for about 5 years when he took over the property. And he went up and said, no, they sorted it out many years ago with the council, probably back in the 80s. And the council managed the pit area and we managed that piece. So we swapped.
So what you're saying to me, and just to be clear to understand, is that you've agreed and all set that the shingle taken was worth the lease that you're not paying.
Yeah, the council managed.
The argument about royalties is probably, that's in the past, is what I'm hearing.
The royalties were collected off the material dug out and the council collected them. So the council basically looked after the reserve down there. Well, they looked after our piece of land and we looked after the council's piece of land. And the council have given up looking after that piece of land in the last 10 years. It's growing gorse, broom, thistles, all sorts of things that have been carted there by their contractors. And I looked after their piece of land. So it was basically the lease agreements was to swap because they were looking after the piece in the corner because the titles were supposed to be changed.
thank you, Peter. Another question from Phil.
All right, Peter. Hey, I'm Phil. I'm from Boston. I don't know you, and this is the second time I've seen you. I've seen the letter that's been sent out from on April the 17th. You said that lawyers shouldn't be involved, but that sounds exactly like lawyers need to be involved in this. There's a long time as things here. I think that we're probably at the point now where lawyers need to come in and unpick this for us from our side and from your side. So if you want questions from us and you're looking for a negotiation with us, I think probably through your lawyer is going to be the best way forward.
I would have thought it'd be best if we all sat in the room, all lawyers and part of the council.
We're not going to get in. You need to speak to your lawyer and you need to talk to your lawyer about what your concerns are. Get your lawyer to draft it to our lawyers, and then I think that's the only way that we can go forward. Obviously, there's the letters being the mechanism that you've got in front of you is a great way for you to crack the door open. You can come back at us and let us know what your is, and then all your other concerns. Get all above board. None of this. If we got in a room, it would be exactly what's happened for the last 120 years, and that's its agreements, its handshakes, its whacks and nudges. Clearly, that's we need to get this above the board. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions at Councillor Tapp? I feel that there's the next step then is to hear back from you, Peter, to the offer that's been presented, with something in writing so that we can understand where the position sits, and it's not just about conversation that was had here today or other conversations you may have had with councillors between then and now, and then we can clearly understand where both parties sit and try and find a resolution.
No problem. I can contact my lawyer and send the letter back. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for coming in today and raising it with us.
Yeah.
The next item is confirmation of minutes. This the minutes of the 8th of March 2023, 1 p.m. I've moved and seconded for those. Malcolm, thank you. Bob seconded. Any discussion on those minutes? All those in favour say aye. Aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Minutes on the 29th of March extraordinary meeting. Move and seconded for those. Phil? Lydia? Any discussion on those minutes? All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. The next item is my mayor's report. I'll just say at the start, really looking forward to the ceremonies that we will be each attending over the next week, with Anzac Day coming up, a really special time in the community's calendar, acknowledging those who have served, and with Burnham and the Defence Force here, obviously our district has played a big part in wars that New Zealand has been involved in the past, and current day peacekeeping efforts with people deployed overseas as well. So thank you to councillors who are attending, laying wreaths and supporting our community at those events. Last month, there's a lot of things that have gone on here. Actually, there's a lot of things, but one thing is about has been delivered very recently in the opening. It was a really cool way of looking at how we interact with the story of waste and recycling and reuse of things. And Jess, Andrew, and Elizabeth are here. Also, thank you to the three of you for what you've done and the different parts you've played in that process. I think we've been able to deliver a really cool facility for our community, and some dairy milk chocolate here just to really say thank you.
I'll just read this out.
Microphone if you can. Just people online can't hear without your microphone.
Just really that it was a really interesting project. Quite a lot more involved than we ever thought from the start, but it's turned out better than we had first envisaged, and I'm really happy with it. And the feedback that we're getting from the different attendees that have come through has just been absolutely fantastic. So we're just over the moon, really. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you. Cheers.
Sorry, can I just,
you can ask something different, yeah.
sorry, while you're there, can I just ask you to add about the programs that you're actually running with some school children that are going through the facility? And for those that haven't visited it, just, how all the recycling material that has been pulled out from our recycling area has been used in the facility of the building. So congratulations. But if you could give us an educational background, that would be really great. So
I want Andrew, I don't go into too much detail now. You could circulate your speech notes,
that's
which were amazing. They're just outlining the good. You give us an overview now, but don't go into too much detail, and circulate something a bit more in detail for councillors.
Yes, sure. So just in terms of the building itself, one classroom was from Taitapu School, one was from Waimarie School in Christchurch. They were relocated, refurbished. All the items that needed to be bought new that weren't able to be sourced secondhand or reclaimed were selected really carefully by a lot of Googling and a lot of investigation into making sure that the materials we chose, we could stand by our decisions behind why we chose them. We've got things like the interface carpet tiles that are 100% recyclable, carbon neutral, that kind of thing. We've got a lot of materials came out of actually my son's intermediate school in Christchurch. They were demolishing Cobham Intermediate. He mentioned about something, and then it made me realise they were demolishing the whole school. So we salvaged tons of materials out of there, whiteboards, projectors, you name it, a whole ton of things. And then we sourced materials from the Lincoln Event Centre that they were getting rid of, chairs, sourced shelving from libraries. So pretty much most of the fit out was reclaimed, reused for secondhand. So just in the whole ethos of reusing, and
thank you.
And Elizabeth can talk briefly to the
Yeah. So all of our programs are free. They're for anyone. They're for early childhood, primary school, high school, community groups. You guys can come along if you want. And they're all based on waste minimisation. At the moment, we've got 3 programs. One's concentrating on waste in general. What is it? Why do we create so much? How do we reduce it? The other one's based on recycling. What is it? What can you recycle? Why you can't recycle it? Really just recycling 101. And then our final program is about food waste. And we're really lucky because it's at Pines Resource Recovery Park. So we've got everything in that recovery centre that we can use to our advantage. We've got the giant large-scale composting section around the back. So we get to take the kids around the back, open up the compost windrows. It's really hands-on, fun. Yeah, it's cool because you get to do place-based learning with the children. All of our programs have been aligned to the New Zealand curriculum, so it's really helpful. And yeah, if any of you guys want to create a group and come along to one of our programs, I'd love to have you. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the best part is the waste minimisation is funded as funding for us.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's not a rates funded area. And one of the games I played at the opening was trying to guess the time it takes for certain objects to break down, from t-shirts to cans to bottles to batteries, and just actually getting your head around what does 30 years look like and what does 10,000 years look like, around how long things are, puts into context waste, and wanting to be able to reuse things and actually not create stuff from the very beginning. That's going to be a problem for many generations to come. So I think what you're doing in raising awareness.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. And lastly, for my report, I'll just mention the draft annual plan sessions that are happening at the moment. So we were at Lincoln on Monday. We have been in Darfield last night, Te Ara, Te Rolleston tonight, and Lincoln on Thursday evening. Thank you to the councillors that have come along and supported that, conversations with the community and staff that have been behind that as well. So I'm looking forward to receiving feedback on our annual plan. I'm happy to move my report if there's a seconder. Thanks, Malcolm. Is there any questions or comments people have? All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Declare it carried. Chief Executive's report, David.
Mayor, thank you. And for information items again, the first one you've spoken to, it's around the draft annual plan being open for engagement and the responses. And Naomi's just about to tell me the number of submissions we've got so far. 43 submissions so far, and another week and a half to go. Second item, Westview Special Fund. Councillor Mugford is the chair of that committee, which has significant funds available for distribution within the Darfield water area, isn't it? Boundary. And those applications are open until the 30th of April, and the subcommittee is scheduled to meet, I think it's the 17th of May, to consider those applications received. And a big update on the delegations manual as part of our 6-monthly policy review, Mr. Mayor. Happy to answer any questions on any of those items.
Great, thanks for that, David. Any questions for David and his report? Right.
Deborah was forming.
I think Deborah's line was still on.
sorry.
Before. Yep.
Looking at the financial commitments, the head of strategy and policy has gone up from $10,000 to $50,000 delegation. It seems quite a jump. Is there a reason? Is this out of date that it's a substantial jump, or is there roles that require?
Yeah, there's two reasons. The first one you've identified, policy was significantly out of date. And secondly, this is a position that's at a significantly higher level than previously.
And the sub roles with 20,000 each, that's appropriate, given that the leader's got 50.
Yep, that is the advice of the group manager, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions of this report? Mover and seconder. Phil, Bob, all those in favour say aye. Aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Next item is the representation review subcommittee report. David.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And there's a couple of recommendations that we're going to get consideration to fairly shortly, but by way of background, it is a statutory requirement that we undertake a representation review every 6 years. However, at the last representation review, the Local Government Commission, in its determination, strongly encouraged council, because of our growth and the fact that that growth is not even across our district, to in fact undertake a review in 3 years. So we will need to get the work completed towards the third quarter of 2024 and signed off by the Local Government Commission around February 2025. The reason that we're starting this process now is really an acknowledgement of the fact that I'm disappearing, and I'm probably the last one standing in terms of involvement with previous reviews. So it's just to get the committee set up, get the committee on the right pathway. As I've noted in my report, the Local Government Commission's encouraged us to undertake an examination of communities of interest, and this is around this disparate growth that we've got across the district, feeding community views into the process. We also talk about subcommittee membership, and my suggestion to councillors is that we form a subcommittee to lead council through the process. Membership of that subcommittee be one member from each of the 4 electoral wards, the chair of the Melbourne Community Board, the 2 Runanga representatives who we've agreed will come on, and of course the mayor will be ex officio through that. Local Government Commission has also recommended that council consider adding up to 3 members of the community to that group as well. You may well have some thoughts on that. As I've said in my report, I would imagine that the subcommittee would meet only a couple of times this calendar year, probably 3 at the most, and the first one of those would be around mid-May, just to get the background and set the ball rolling. So happy to answer any questions on the process or the timing, Mr. Mayor. I guess the crucial thing is really around the membership of the subcommittee, and for us to be able to have our first meeting in mid to late May, we would probably need to identify those names now. So happy to answer any questions, but also to take names of councillors to join the subcommittee.
Thank you for that, David. I think having a member from each ward is helpful to just get the area covered, so there's representation from each of the current wards without prejudicing what the outcome looks like, because the current wards are based pretty loosely on where we were in 1989, and we're 30-something years beyond that. Suggests that Malcolm, Shane, Lydia and Phil be the 4 names that get put into that list. And it'll be up to the committee to determine who the chair is, but I'd suggest that Phil be the chair of that group. The chair and deputy chair roles that have been shared already around have allowed councillors to take some roles and responsibility in that space. Phil's appointment was to the Audit and Risk Subcommittee as deputy chair, with a chair, an external chair already appointed, and to chair all those meetings unless Annalise is unwell. That group also meets less regularly than the rest. So I'll just say that up front because I just think there's a space for that conversation to be had by the committee once it's formed, but with those thoughts in mind. There was also one other view and conversation about whether a youth councillor or a young person's representative, rather than taking up the community member spots, whether we should actually just think about the partnership with the youth council as an opportunity for this group to work there. And that doesn't form part of the current recommendation, but if people support that, we could add that before we pass it today. Are there any conversations, views that people would like to share? Elizabeth.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what was the reasoning for the selection of the people that you've already selected to be appointed for that?
It was pick some names and have a discussion at lunchtime with those that were in the room as a starting point for the conversation.
Right, okay. It was something that I was hoping to look at doing.
Okay. Cool. Shane, sorry.
Yes, I think having been a part of the last representation review, I'm glad to see the involvement of our wider community, including our mana whenua. My question is around the timing of the future for local government and how that will have perhaps an effect on the direction we take in this process. And secondly, just want to acknowledge yourself, Councillor Munt, that you would like to be put forward as part of the representation review? And if that's the case, well, I would still like to be a part of it, but if it's something that needs to go to a vote, then I'm happy to step away. If both of us would like to be a part of this committee, then something for consideration.
So, in response to those two questions, the first one is that the Mayor's identified 4 names, so we'll put those in the recommendation. That'll be part of the debate. With respect to the future for local government, the Local Government Commission works outside of that thing, and also the time frame, and then central government elections, etc., etc. So we're basically going to work within the rules of the Local Government Commission at this stage.
Yeah, well, thank you. I wasn't aware that you were going to nominate me as chair. I appreciate that. I wanted to talk about the youth representative. We have a youth council. I think it would be a great opportunity for us to have someone from that council, again, it's empowering them and to come into that space. In terms of the community, it would be, I wonder whether or not we need to have the community, as we are elected from the community as councillors. I guess I'm throwing it out there for a conversation. And if we do have community members, I guess we need to decide a selection process, which we can't ask.
Recommendation today directs that the chief executive be requested to approach community members. It's one way of doing it. The terms of reference allow 3 spots for community members as they're currently drafted. So we don't have to, if the room would like to do a different approach to how we get community involved, we don't have to pass to it today. The community members are still involved because the terms of reference include those members, and at your first meeting you can decide how you'd like to approach.
That's what I understand.
Malcolm.
Yes, I'm happy to see representatives from the Youth Council involved in this process. I think that's a very good role to get them involved in civics, and an ideal opportunity. So I support that.
Yeah, Grant.
Yeah, like Malcolm, I support the Youth Council coming in. Like Phil, I don't support representation review. The time for community involvement is when we test the models. I think that's a better way of doing it when you've actually got something to take to the community, rather than having one person, or in this case 2 or 3, who are somehow miraculously supposed to have a better connection to the community than the councillor. So I don't support it, basically, and I'll be voting against. The last thing I think we spoke of, basically guidance as to what an independent third party would see as a reasonable level of representation, which may be able to be directed by the chair, whoever that might be, once it's elected, to investigate that option.
Thank you very much, and I think that is the best direction for that, and whether it's the elected commission or whoever the best group is to give us that external advice would be helpful. Lydia.
Yeah, thanks. I definitely support the Youth Council having a voice. I think that's really important around the table, and I also support Councillor Dean chairing, which I think is fantastic. And yeah, I guess I have questions around community representation, and if that is the way that it ends up being, should it be a person from each ward? If there's 3 community people, who and where are those people selected? So I think we need some guidance on how you select people.
Thank you. We'll finish the conversation and we'll consider how we move through A and B. And we want to move some suggestions. Great. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm in great. Yeah, I really support the community being a part of it, because I think that's the way forward, that we're looking at really having that community involvement, and it makes them feel like we're starting to move in that direction. In terms of there being 3 places for the community, I wonder if that for example, and look within the rural community, so that's representing that part of the community, and then people who are urban, and then maybe someone who's part of the Māori community groups, that's, maybe separate outside of council as it stands at the moment, but yeah, so that we've got.
It feels like there's a bit of contention around whether or not we have the community groups, how we would go about selecting them, what the right process is. It might be easier if there is the opportunity, rather than reviewing the terms of reference later, if we had 4 community reps in the terms of reference, the subcommittee can determine whether or not they want any. But if you do go through the process of wanting some, at least it gives you the opportunity to have one from each board should you want to go down that route. Deborah?
Mr. Mayor, I think it would be good to take A and B separately, but just with regards to what you said with B, it mentions in the recommendation it's the chief executive to approach. If you want to go down the pathway that you just suggested, then basically it should be the community, the representation review committee. Actually request, if necessary, to approach community members. That needs to be altered with what you've just said to clarify point B, giving the delegation to the representation review subcommittee.
I think what I was intending, what I said was that we wouldn't move B at all. We've got terms of reference that allow those community members to be there. We would expect the subcommittee to report back to us on the new members that they have, and they may choose to do none. As some of you have said around the room, that might be the best course of action, or they may choose to have up to 4, and that would leave that decision for the group themselves once they're formed and understands what their program of work looks like, why they would want other people on that committee, what the skills they'll be looking for that they'll want to bring into that, and the representation across the district as far as the wide geography and communities that we've got. David, do you have?
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor, the last 2 speakers have basically stated what I was going to share with the council today. My suggestion would be that you that you take the 2 recommendations separately, supporting A, not agreeing to put a line through B. And my suggestion would be that you would ask the subcommittee what advantage to the process there would be from members of the community and being added to the committee. And maybe a better engagement process is to hold more meetings or more discussions within communities of interest rather than add people. And that would then allow communities of interest to feed into the submission process that you are statutorily required to do.
Thanks for the advice, David. Grant.
To assist in that direction, I move an amendment to option A that after and at the end of the sentence, it's Representation Review Committee terms of reference be amended to allow appointment of up to 4 community members at the discretion of the Representation Review Committee.
I'll second that. Yep. Did note takers, Glenn, if you get it written down, you can just email the note takers. And Grant, you're happy to support the Youth Council related to that as well? Yeah. So I don't think we need to write it on the board. We understand that it's A, we're not moving B, and A also includes up to 4 members and a Youth Council representative.
At the discretion of the
chair of the subcommittee. Yeah. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Thank you. We move now to tab 11. It's the adoption of the annual report. Annalise is online. This matter has been heard and discussed by the Audit and Risk Subcommittee earlier this week, where there was a page turn type exercise and some matters were raised and clarified through that process. Is Kelvin online today, David? Yeah. Kelvin, if you're online, you can turn your video on. Great to see you as well. David, I'll get you to introduce the matter and just note that our auditors are in the room. We're in the room.
So, no, I'm in the room. No, I'll just ask Julian and Lena maybe to come to the front seat as well. So I don't want to steal Annalise's thunder. Suffice to say that the Audit and Risk Subcommittee met on Monday afternoon 1 p.m. and did a page 2 exercise with our auditors in the room, querying and asking questions and acknowledging the content of the annual report. I guess from a personal perspective, it gives me a lot of pride to have this being adopted by council today. You look back, because we do so much, you tend to forget how much we actually do. And in the year ended June 2022, we did a phenomenal amount of work, and we're left that year in a very strong financial position as well. Kelvin was going to speak to his report again. Can I just check, Kelvin, you on the line?
Yeah, I am, and good afternoon, councillor. Good afternoon. I'm just confused. I'm here in Australia, so time zone differences. But I might just introduce the report, and it gives me pleasure to introduce the annual report for 30 June 2022. Just want to note that the report has gone past the statutory deadline of 31 December, but we have to acknowledge the huge impact that Audit New Zealand and other auditors around New Zealand are facing currently, and I'm really thankful of the Audit New Zealand team for the work they've done in completing this audit. Also would like to express my thanks to my team for the effort they've put in to do this under challenging circumstances also. But I'll just run through a couple of the key highlights of the report, and particularly focusing on the financial aspects. And we'll start off with the continued rapid growth in the district. 1,600 new ratepayers in the period, which is an increase of 5.5%, and it would be hard pressed to see another district in New Zealand with such growth. From a financial point of view, the group returned a surplus of 99.2 million, which is 46.8 better than budget. And the council, once you take out our CCOs and other investments, returned 56.9, a better than budget surplus. Now, we have to note a couple of key matters within this that impact that surplus, and the first being development contributions, which were 24.7 million above plan. Now, development contributions are cash contributions by developers and those building in the community, and that expenditure goes towards future capital items. Additionally, vested assets were 11.3 million above plan. And that as non-cash items where a developer has developed assets and they transfer to the council, and the revenue represents the valuation of those assets. Other key revenue items were we had some additional contributions from Waka Kotahi towards our roading developments, and pleasingly Cord recorded a 0.8 million above budget. On the expenditure side, we had lower financing costs, and roading maintenance was, however, a little bit higher. And that really concludes the key financial matters of the report, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you for that, Kelvin. And so there's some things you'd like to say at the beginning, and then we'll ask our auditors and see if there's any questions in the room here. But Annalisa.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mayor. Nothing more to add more from me, I guess. I just want to reiterate my thanks to Kelvin, especially, and his finance team. You know, this audit has taken a long time. We're all very well aware of the audit crisis, not just in New Zealand, but around the world. So hopefully we're coming to the end of this, and hopefully next year, you know, we'll get back to some sense of normal. So a thank you to Audit New Zealand. You know, they too have been working under very challenging circumstances, but you know, for my role, thank you very much to Kelvin and his team. As the Mayor suggested, we went through the report, a page 2 exercise, which took kind of a little over an hour on Monday, going section by section just to get some clarity and a few queries, and ultimately just a few kind of tweaks and changes to the report. From my perspective, as I said on Monday, an annual report, you know, it does hold a lot of financial information and data, but it's actually a really good opportunity to tell a story, and tell a story of, you know, the great amount of mahi that's been done, I guess, up until 30 June last year, which for me, I think, most proudly is the quality and quantity of major projects that we have delivered. So, that's the great news story that I think everyone that's been involved with that can kind of step back and feel very proud of that. So, nothing more to add, just a whole lot of thank you to Calvin and his team and Audit New Zealand. And great that we made it, great that we got to this day and that we can actually be in a position to sign it off. So, happy to take some questions.
Thank you. Is there something you'd like to present to us before we hear from councillors?
There's nothing much more that I could add, Mayor, other than that we are all good to go with your report.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillors, do you have any questions or comments on this? Right.
Well, just on the financial summary, gains of 14.8 million versus budget of 200,000. Is there an explanation for what that is and why there's such a big variance there? My apologies. It's page 6. I think it says on the page 43 of the book, diligent books.
I'll just go on the select page. I'll be with you in a moment.
Page 43.
So gains of 14.3. Largely the gains there relate to our interest rate swaps and the movements in the market of the interest rates. So non-cash items. And then there's a couple of small disposals of plant and equipment, 2.26 and 3.9, near enough to 4 million of fair value movements on our investment property.
It was largely due to a swap portfolio performing better than what we thought.
Yes, just fair value movements. So they'll come up and down, and we may realise that, or we may not realise that when it comes to the interest rates closing out.
Sorry, to introduce something else.
Just a question for the chair. Was the opportunity for board loan with the auditors taken? A loan time?
So I met with Julian pre the Audit and Risk Committee meeting.
So Councillor Dean and Councillor Reid weren't part of that auditor alone time?
No, it was just me and my capacity as chair.
Seems unusual that you wouldn't include the staff, the councillors.
We did provide that opportunity, I guess, at the end of the hui, but maybe that's a shortcoming on my part. But Julian and I, as Audit New Zealand, because we'd caught up before, they didn't believe that we needed more additional time as Audit and Risk Committee only time.
Look, I'm happy to. There's no reason for concern. We had a good conversation with the auditors as well on Monday. The meeting was as just over an hour long, but we had great conversation.
So what I'm referring to is that generally at every audit meeting, there's an opportunity for the Audit and Risk Committee to meet independently with the staff, with the auditors, to discuss any matters that may have caused concern during the audit, which should be referred directly to this committee.
Oh, it makes sense. I guess process for next time.
And if there's a matter of follow-up, unless we can still do that post today, the Williams issues relating to the audit itself. But if there's things that needs to be discussed and heard, then you can make that opportunity available. Joe?
Mayor, can I just say something? It is my practice, my personal practice, that I'm prepared to talk about anything with or without management present. So to hear the one only story. So that's my.
Thank you. Good to hear that. Bob.
Yeah, just on council information near the back of this. It's got the old councillors' names and such like. So
June 2022. Don't forget.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So at Ballanstone.
Thank you, Shane.
Tēnā koe. As I said, tēnā koe, Chair and Lisa and auditors Julian Roma. While you've highlighted, and Kelvin, sorry, We've highlighted the highlights of the report. What are the significant risks that we need to be aware of moving forward?
From a risk point of view, Shane, given this as looking back at our performance, the risks are sort of, we will have realised any risks that have occurred, and the best place for us to be looking at risks will be going forward in the annual plan, which we've engaging the community on at the moment, and then long-term plan. But moving forward, of course, the largest risk we're probably facing is, well, there's several of them, but the first being the high interest rates at the moment moving up, so our cost of borrowing is potentially going to increase depending on how long this period hangs around for. We've got some incredibly low and well-placed swaps in place at the moment, so we've got a good interest rate. The next risk would go with the high inflationary period and the cost pressure on us moving forward, which we've incorporated within the annual plan going forward. And the third risk would be around employment and staffing, and not just of our own staff, but our contractors that we need to engage with, who are continuing to have pressures around attracting good staff. So that would be, I see the risks sitting from the council currently.
Thank you very much, Gavin. You can remove and seconder for A through F, approves, delegates, authorises, receives and adopts. Elizabeth and Phil. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Anyone against? They're carried. David?
And just in concluding this item, can I extend my thanks to Kelvin and his team, to Julian and Payman, and to Annalisa and the Audit and Risk Subcommittee. The work, it's a phenomenal amount of work that goes into producing these documents. They are an incredibly good read in terms of what we have done, but also underpins the strength of the organisation at the moment. So thank you very much to everybody who has been involved in this process.
Thanks, David, and I echo those comments. Well done, everyone. The next item is tab 12, register of documents signed and sealed. Mover and seconder. Deborah, thanks. Malcolm, any discussion on those matters? Page 199.
The leased out as a laydown site for cord. Is it able to be identified which property it is? Is it a parcel of land that's from the roundabout or? You might be able to see me perhaps later on and tell me which one it is. That forestry block's owned by the council. Yes. So it's an investment property, no forestry property currently.
That could be one of the two. Do you know if it's investment or where it sits?
I'm not sure where it sits.
We'll follow it up for you, Matt. Thank you.
Is that the one by Clermont? Sorry, is that the one by Clermont?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Better mover and seconder. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Declare it carried. We now move to the resolution to exclude the public. Mover and seconder, thanks Bob. Seconded Elizabeth. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Declare it carried. And the first item we're going to deal with in PX will do just with councillors only in the room and support staff. So I'll get us the rest of the staff to leave for this first matter, and we'll ask you to come back in a few minutes' time.